welcome to the show. Where did we go? Here it is. Okay. Okay. There it is. Okay, great. So this is an offering of the Gate Institute for Holistic Health Education. Our motto here is with the Clinic for Chinese and Functional Medicine is nature first, drugs last. Again, nothing wrong with pharma drugs. They're just massively overused and there's a natural solution at least 95% of the time. And much of that has to do with food, which is going to be one of our subjects today. So welcome to show number 330 for this August 17th. I'm sorry, it's not August 17th. I got last week's thing, August 24th. Well, there you go. It's a live show, folks. Sometimes stuff happens. Welcome to it, but it is show number 330 for August 24th. So we are just a few days away from our 11th annual practitioner retreat here in Colorado at a beautiful retreat center, which is a regenerative organic farm and ranch on 440 acres in the foothills of the Rockies, a gorgeous retreat center. And we're back there for, actually we've done, this will be our 10th at this location. We did do one here in Boulder, and but by popular demand, we are returning to Sunrise Ranch, a farm and retreat center. So if you'd like to join us, it's not too late. It's going to be a wonderful event. We have a great program and some of the best food you'll ever eat, most of which grown right on the farm. So it's a beautiful setting. So I'm really honored to have today's guest with us today. We have with us John Klar of Small Farm Republic. Our topic today is how small farms create human and societal health. And we're just really honored to have John with us today. He is a great leader in the slow food, local food, small farm movement. And in fact, that is the name of one of his websites is Small Farm Republic. So I'm going to read a little bit about John, but in short, he is a farmer, an outdoorsman, an attorney, a writer, and author of a wonderful book, Small Farm Republic. We're going to be talking today about how small farms create human and societal health. So I just wanted to read, we could spend most of the hour just on John's resume and bio. He's accomplished so much in so many fields, but we do want to get into our conversation with him. And so John Klar earned his law degree with honors from the University of Connecticut School of Law. He practiced tax law and litigation in Connecticut through the 1990s. In 1999, severe muscle pain, fibromyalgia type symptoms forced him to retire from law. It was eventually traced to an untreated Lyme disease, and he went on to undergo more than a decade of intensive treatment. He moved to Vermont and bought a farm, in part because the physical work kept him moving. He and his wife, Jacqueline, have farmed for 25 years, raising sheep, cattle, goats, pigs, and Percheron draft horses. You have to explain what that is, John. I never heard of that. And building an organic raw milk cheese operation in the Northeast Kingdom. On the land his great, 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 great grandfather bought in Brookfield, they built an off-grid house, logging and milling the timber themselves and laying the foundation in granite and fieldstone. He writes for Mother Earth News, American Thinker, and True North Reports, drawing on Wendell Berry and Joel Salatin to examine food dependency and the economics of local farms. And he is the author of a wonderful book called Small Farm Republic. So please, we're on whatever platform you're on, let's give a warm welcome to John Klar. John, thank you so much for being with us today.
Well, thanks for having me, Doctor. I think I should have brought a piano or something. I didn't know we were going to start with Carnegie Hall. Might might I might I launch by suggesting your piano playing is very much like a cow? And by that
Like
I
a
mean,
cow?
yeah, because
Wow.
cows, one of the reasons is so think about this, this is kind of common sense, but we often don't think about it. Cows are very bucolic. I can be writing under deadlines or embroiled in a legal matter or dealing with, counseling with someone in drug addiction,
Right,
and I'm totally, my stress level is up here, and I go
right.
out and I pet my cow. And when I go out and pet my cow, it's a lot like listening to you regale us with your piano. It's a
Oh,
way, and that's
wonderful.
where art comes in to help us be sane, I think. And art and cows are similar. So,
Oh,
uh,
that's awesome.
this is actually a theme, though, I think that
That's
Americans need to
fabulous.
look at as they look at their food, is that
Yeah,
is everything about money? Are we measuring everything in money? Is a cow
yeah.
only about how much money we make, or is it also something that forces me to get up and work every day, keep my body moving, be
Yeah.
grateful for what I have? And the cow reminds me to stop living in regrets over the past or fears over the
Mm,
future, which is
mm.
where we humans spend a lot of our minds. So at any rate, I don't
Wow.
know.
Well,
I'm not
John,
learning how to play a piano. I just got a cow instead. That's
I
all.
love that. Well, John, I've been playing my whole life. It was my first career when I lived in New York City, and I've never been compared to a cow. So thank you
I
for
thought that
breaking.
would be novel. And my wife plays piano and organ,
Oh,
and I can't understand how you can do the foot pedals with
yeah,
forget it. I'll
right.
just stick to a little guitar. I play conga if you want. I'll bring my conga. If I come
That's
back on, I'll play some congas for you
oh, that would
if
be
I
great. I
can
love that.
chime in with
I
your
was
rhythms.
I was a church organist in New York for 10 years. Back in the day, that was my first career was music in general.
Amen. Well, it shows, and it's a
And I
gift.
tell you,
Yeah.
well, thank you, John. Well, those pedals are a thing. I never studied, I never took even one organ lesson. I studied piano for decades, but never took an organ lesson. So here I get this job as a church organist at the age of 16. And I never played the organ, except to like one service. And so for the first 6 months, I didn't play the pedals. I just played left-hand bass while I was trying to figure out what to do with my feet.
Most of us wouldn't notice.
So anyway, it worked out. So I appreciate you being with us, John. You've had such a remarkable journey so far. For folks who are less familiar with you and your journey, if you just give us a little bit of your arc, I'm guessing when you were a prominent corporate tax attorney that you weren't expecting to end up, being a full-time farmer or doing what you're doing now in the food advocacy movement. Or maybe you did. I'm not sure. But if you just tell us a little bit about your arc and how you came to be doing the work you're doing now.
Well, yeah, my arc might be important to help other people on their arc. I mean,
Mm,
mine, like many people that I deal with within this evolving Maha movement, this,
yep.
speaking, generically about it.
Yep.
A lot of people have found that what they eat either cause their ill health or help them recover from illness by
Mm,
bolstering our natural immune system. So
yeah.
it's very humbling for me to be here talking about this for a number of reasons. But let me start with saying what's most humbling is I'm no genius. I didn't, oh, look at me, I'm so smart. I got into farming. No, I got into farming. Good hat. Controversial hat. I got
It
into
is.
farming because I got sick. And as you say, I hadn't been to a doctor in 12 years. My story is, I hope,
Wow.
a story to inspire other people to also
Please.
maybe jump off the cliff of corporate food.
Yes.
Because, I was going to the gym every day. I mean, where I dealt with my stress as a litigator, particularly at that point, I was no longer a tax practitioner. I was doing divorce and criminal law.
Mm.
So I did a lot of
Because you
backpacking.
went from I just I'm sorry to
Yeah,
interrupt
yeah.
because I was
Yes,
married
sir.
to an attorney for 17 years. So
I'm
you went
sorry.
she
We're
was
not all
great,
bad.
great attorney, great attorney. But so you went from tax law to litigation to public defender. Was that how it went?
Yeah, well, the litigation included the public defender work.
Mm.
My first wife was British, and the only way I could return with her to England, which was our plan, was for me to become a tax attorney because otherwise I had to requalify in the UK as a solicitor or barrister. So it was
Oh,
kind of, so I studied tax in law school at UConn, and that's what I did for a few years. When
wow.
we moved back to the US and our marriage um, ended, as did yours.
Yep.
Something about being married to attorneys, I guess. Though I've been with my current wife for 30 years now, and we seem to
Oh,
have it worked out.
congratulations. Well done.
Yeah, I married a nurse. I don't know why you married the few
Uh,
the
yeah,
next
well, no, she
time.
was an attorney and a natural food chef, actually. A very good show.
That's a,
And actually, we got married in Vermont,
oh, really? Yeah.
in Shrewsbury outside Rutland.
Hmm.
And my aunt and uncle owned Chrysanver House, which is a luxury inn that he managed. My uncle passed away, but he managed properties all over the world for an ultra wealthy family. So he was traveling over the world, managing properties all over the place, Colorado, Texas, Dubai, all over the place. And so he was very wealthy. And they had their passion project. They lived on the Upper East Side of Manhattan. And their passion project was they bought the Tip Top Inn in Shrewsbury. I'm sure you're familiar with the area. I know you've spoken in Rutland many times and such.
Yeah.
And then they just renovated it and made it this, gorgeous, just beautiful. My aunt, Martha Stewart has nothing on my Aunt Carol. She's an amazing host and hostess and that. But anyway, that's where we got married was at the Chrysanver House in Shrewsbury.
Well, and so back to my own tale,
Yeah,
because
please.
what I want to emphasize is that, I'm not some genius. I fell into this through ill health. And I went
Mm.
from being a person who could bench press 400 pounds. I was 34
What?
years old. I was bench pressing 396. That's
What?
in kilos. You
That's
can figure it out. Yeah, well, and I was climbing Mount Washington in January
what?
solo. I mean, I was well, that's where I got rid of my stress. I went to the gym. I did things. I went
Wow.
hiking a lot. I was very, very avid hiker, which
And
is
you
where I
were
got
here in the
ticks in me.
Rockies.
Pardon?
You've hiked here in the Rockies quite a bit.
We have, including in Colorado, when you
That's
describe
what I
your
mean.
thing.
That's what I
Yeah,
mean,
we've
Colorado.
Jackie and I have hiked in a lot of places.
Wow.
We have a lot of fond memories of Colorado.
Mm.
We affirmed our love in Colorado, actually, but that's another whole story. So back to the food story. So, it's very easy to say to people, oh, well, you should eat organic and you should be a farmer. Well, not everybody can be a farmer. Not everybody can be organic. And in fact, my family are farmers, as you mentioned, here in Vermont, where I'm sitting for many generations. And what we were
Wow.
all told as kids
Mm.
was get out of Vermont. There's no money in Vermont. There's never going to be any money in Vermont. You're never going to make a living in Vermont. And never get into farming because there's no money in farming. You're never going to make any living in farming. All my family lost their life. It was poor, through the
Wow.
since farming. So if you looked at the arc, if you will, of the curve of
Yes.
agriculture in Vermont, which is paralleled in many ways in other parts of the country, but
Right.
Vermont was built on sheep, and then we moved into
Right.
dairy. And as the railroads opened up, it became very,
Oh,
very competitive for us. We're very cold, long-wintered,
right.
mountainous, rocky soil, but we're not a really great place to make food.
Is that good for sheep? I didn't know it
It's
started with sheep.
well, it was very good for sheep, but the real value of sheep at that time was the wool market. In
Oh,
1852, the price of wool peaked at $1 a pound. And if you're getting 10 pounds a sheep in 1852, $10 a year on a sheep, just
wow.
for the wool, that was a fortune.
Yeah.
In fact,
You're printing coin. Yeah.
yeah, a merino sheep, because had a lot, there's a whole history here. Merino sheep came over from Spain.
Oh,
A merino sheep in 1852 was $5,000 in 1852 dollars. That would be like probably like a
wow.
$50,000 sheep now. But anyway, so the point is that farming declined across the country, particularly starting with the Great Depression when commodity prices tanked.
Oh.
Vermonters suffered that. I had many great uncles that were dairy farmers. They're all gone. All these
Mm.
farms are gone. There were 27,000 dairy farms in Vermont in 1929. Now there are about
27,000
500.
from
So,
27,000.
and also most of this state, and we again parallels because farming and development varies from
Oh,
state to state, but this state was largely deforested, almost completely deforested because of sheep farming. There were no deer in Vermont in the 1860s. They were gone.
whoa.
And
Wait
a
a minute.
lot of people moved west after the Civil War.
So they cut
Also,
down the trees to make room for the sheep?
correct. Most of this state, probably, I believe it was 98%
What?
defoliated. And we were going to have a crisis because pretty soon we weren't even going to have firewood. So now we've gone the other way. And now we actually pay people to rewild and let them grow trees on their property to grow this farmland back into forests. And
Wow.
so what we're doing is we're abdicating or abandoning our agriculture. And this, I think, is a
Oh,
symptom of what we've done in our nation. If you're going to talk about small farms and we're going to talk about
Yeah.
Wendell Berry, and you may have heard,
Yes.
or your listeners may have heard of the unsettling of America. So we've
Yes.
pushed everybody into cities, and now they're all stuck in cities. And it turns out it's not very healthy for you. I'm
Mm.
sorry to bash urban life. I don't want to pick on the city mice. We need city mice because if they all moved to Vermont, we would all be city mice in Vermont. We want you to stay in the city and that's what our cold winters
Right.
help us do. But joking aside, the city mice and the country mice have always got along in a complementary way.
Yeah.
But we're starting to learn things about the human body and about our lifestyle that, gosh, we didn't know. Kind of like me, healthy, didn't care what I ate whatever,
Right.
because it was a very stressful job I had.
Right.
And so what I found though, by the way, and I just want to finish this part of the story because then
Please.
I got diagnosed with Lyme disease. On my wedding night, I had a temperature of 104.6 degrees and a
What?
huge bullseye rash. I'd been bit
Oh
by many
no.
ticks. I grew up in Connecticut as well as Vermont, and we
Oh.
just pull them out and keep going, And
Oh.
so the Lyme manifested, and then I probably had late stage Lyme. In other words, I'd probably had
Oh.
Lyme for a while, and the fibromyalgia that had started to manifest
Right.
was probably caused by the Lyme disease, according to the Lyme specialists. But
Wow.
here's maybe the most important part of my story. I'm used to being successful. I'm a type AAA plus, work 80 hours a week, build my own practice, and all of a sudden I can't walk. I don't go to doctors.
Oh.
I put duct tape on instead of stitches. I'm that kind of guy. And all of a
Yeah.
sudden I can't walk and
Wow.
I can't, and I had to close my business and I couldn't
So
serve
this is
clients.
1999, John?
Yeah, 1988, 1998 is when it started.
Oh.
And frankly, I mean, it destroyed me. I couldn't hike. I
Wow.
couldn't hold a paintbrush. I couldn't go to court. I mean, it was
Wow.
total. I had irritable bowel syndrome. I mean, I was destroyed. I almost took my
Wow.
own life, frankly, and that
Oh
led me on
no.
a faith journey.
Right.
God uses bad for good. But
Yes.
my
Yes.
point here is that what I then did was sort of the way I was raised and the way I was taught. I was raised by a Marine, be tough, tough it up, just
Right.
push through, and that kind of made everything worse. And then on top of that, I was looking for a pill to solve my problem. So I was looking for antibiotics, and all the doctors and all the king's horses and all the king's men said, "Yep, you got to take antibiotics." And so I'm on intensive antibiotic therapy for about 12 years, which also
Wow.
included
12 years.
hydroxychloroquine and antivirals and
Wow.
Plaquenil and just everything to try to, kill the Lyme.
Wow.
And guess what? Some doctors say I still have Lyme, and some say I've killed the Lyme, and they don't even know about how long,
Wow.
it's going to go on. So the point of this story is that for
Mm.
that 10 or 12 years, my goal in keeping physically fit as well, that's another really important part of the conversation, isn't just eating well, but keeping our
Right.
bodies moving.
Yes.
What I learned as soon as I got sick was I had to keep moving. So I bought a farm deliberately, in part to get our kids away from Lyme ticks, because we moved to
Wow.
the Northeast Kingdom of Vermont, where at that time there were no ticks with our
Oh.
5-year-old boys. I didn't want them to go through what I went through.
Right. Wow.
But I also knew when I got involved with support groups with fibromyalgia that I didn't want to end up in a wheelchair or with a cane like almost all the people
Mm.
I dealt with.
Wow.
I was determined to keep moving. I realized that,
Wow.
and the less you move, the worse it gets.
Yes.
And
Oh, wow.
so physical
So,
fitness, but then after I gave up on the antibiotics,
yes.
I started working more on lifestyle changes. I started
So, John.
working more on getting better sleep and not priding myself on staying up till 1 in the morning working and getting up at 6 and feeding the
Wow.
kids. I
So, John.
started focusing on healthier food. I became more aware of the triggers when I stopped looking for antibiotics to make me better so I could go back to eating whatever. I started
Wow.
realizing that particularly carbohydrates, processed carbohydrates.
Yep.
I learned very early on that aspartame, which I wasn't a big fan of anyway, was
Right.
kind of like drinking poison. Just a little bit of diet
Wow.
soda, if I drank it accidentally, I
Right.
would find out in muscle spasms and so my diet started to teach me. And the more I worked on staying hydrated, avoiding
Right.
stress, regular moderate exercise, healthy
Yes.
food, avoiding carbs. When I ran for
Huh.
governor, my doctor told me you need to go on a keto diet. And he
Oh.
told me what it was. And I said, what does that even, that sounds crazy, all that fat. It's against
Right.
everything I've been taught. So I tried it and it was remarkable. And
Really?
so if I stay, for me, and I think for a lot of people with fibromyalgia and inflammatory conditions, a
Right?
lot of what we eat causes our body to overproduce insulin or whatever it's doing.
Yeah.
It causes an inflammatory condition. So
Right.
I can take Tylenol for the pain. I can take ibuprofen or NSAIDs for
Sure.
inflammation, or I can just stop inflaming it to begin with. Don't eat
Oh,
Doritos. Don't eat all
right.
this crap. Don't eat it. And the more I started eating healthy food and focusing on diet, the more I became aware of the triggers. It's kind of an elimination diet.
Oh, okay. So question,
So
John.
anyway, so that's it in sum. And now I want to
Yeah.
say, look, everybody, look what I learned the hard way. Come learn from me and
Oh,
others so you
okay.
don't have to learn the hard way. Come on in.
Yeah.
The water's fine. We've done the
Yeah.
experimentation.
Yes. Wow. Incredible. Wow. So this was you're been an outdoorsman forever and got bit by a lot of ticks. You were in Connecticut, and then this all developed in this downward spiral, and you found um, uh, self improvement or care, treatment, whatever you want to call it, in your diet and in staying physically active.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Exactly.
So this is I've been having my green tea and my Bobby Kennedy mug. There's been no time in history when the people censoring free speech were the good guys. So Bobby recently said, I think on the campaign trail, he said there were three books. Somebody asked him about Lyme disease on the campaign trail and whether it was a bioweapon, and he kind of sidestepped it a bit and said, "Well, people have given me books. I have three books on it. I have to read them, and there's been some suggestion about it." But then recently, he just came out and said it. This is a laboratory bioweapon, kind of like COVID. So was Lyme. What's your take on all that, having been through it yourself?
Well, I think sometimes we can speak in generalities without wearing tin hats.
Okay.
And so this is what I would say as a generality.
Yeah.
Identifying the source of the Lyme disease that wrecked my life
Right.
is not going to cure me. I want to be
Mm,
cured, not find
yep.
somebody to sue or send me some
That's right.
money.
Right.
A lot of that trail is also very hard to follow. A lot of what we're talking
Oh,
about happened in the 40s, the 50s, and the 60s.
yep.
Plum Island, which was a facility off the coast
Yes.
of Connecticut, remarkably close to
Two
Lyme,
miles from Lyme. Yeah.
Connecticut.
Something like
And we
that.
do know from history, it's historical fact that Operation Paperclip was a real
All right.
thing after World War II,
Yep.
and that we
OSS.
solicited Nazi scientists to come work for us so that they didn't go develop these diseases for the Russians or like in
Mm,
Wuhan.
mm-hmm.
Hint, hint.
Right.
So I would say, on balance, because I'm not a scientist, though I have studied microbiology a great deal, and it's
Sure.
impacted a
Sure.
lot of my work in recent years.
Of course.
I did a deep dive in this in 2006, and I
Oh.
met a woman, or I contacted, named Marjorie Teachen. I think it's
Hmm.
Tietjen, as I recall. She was a
Mm-hmm.
writer for Yankee Magazine. At this time, we could relatively trust certain uh, journalists who were being journalists. I think it was very good journalism. It was in Yankee Magazine. So I called her and talked to her at length. And she said that because of all the people being largely dead who she tried to interview, that
Mm.
we probably would never be able to conclusively prove that Lyme disease was a consequence of bioweapons research. We do know that the
Oh.
Nazis were studying using ticks as a vector to sicken rather than kill the enemy, and that they were using
Mm.
the Bergner Feri bacterium as a potential
Mm.
candidate.
Mm.
Maybe we could also look at other times when diseases throughout history were used as weapons, and then we could look at COVID. So maybe we need to look critically at Lyme and where it came from, but maybe we should look at where came from, and we have a lot more smoking gun evidence on that than we do Plum Island,
Mm.
and a lot more damn harm done.
Oh, for sure.
So again, I'm looking for cures.
Yep.
And identifying the source of Lyme is not really I don't think it's going to give me a cure. It's been released from Pandora's box, and now
Right.
I want grass-fed meat and effective therapies to cure it, and
Right.
maybe we need antibiotics or bee, what is it, bee toxins or whatever. There are a lot of different therapies out there.
Right. Right.
And
Right.
it's not the only disease that ticks carry. We got babesiosis and ehrlichiosis, and
Yep.
it's a
The three
cocktail.
B's.
So At any
the
rate, sorry,
VGFR
more
melon.
more than you maybe had wanted to know.
Oh
So
no, we
I
talk about
don't
this
know,
stuff
but
all the time.
it sure there's a smoking gun there with Lyme, that a disease
Mm,
just cropped up out of nowhere. And other scientists will say that Bergner Ferry was endemic and has been there before, and that there are other factors. And usually things are not as simple as we'd like to think. I mean, I think there are
oh,
other things going on as to why, for instance, the tick population has exploded.
right.
That could have a lot of different factors. So anyway, I'm not a
Hmm,
biologist. That's as far
sure.
as I go. I
Yep,
I
yep.
smell a rat.
Right. Yes. Well, I do too, and it makes a lot of sense. And this is, I think, the book that Marjorie reviewed, the Lyme. This will pop up in a minute. The Lyme Conspiracy, which I think she did a book review on. Here she is. This is Marjorie Tietjen,
Oh yeah.
and wrote this book review on this book,
Oh,
The
good find.
Lyme.
You're quick. What year was this that she did this?
Well, she wrote this review in 2011,
Yeah, so this was later. She
and the
had
book
originally,
came
but
out.
yeah,
Oh, okay,
but
okay.
sorry, but yeah, so no, that but she seemed very, very credible and
Yeah,
competent to me, not a tin hat at all.
right, for
So
sure. Yeah, yeah. Well, anyway, I mean, it sounds like you found solutions that have worked for you in terms of your diet and staying physically active and being a farmer and being in a healthier environment, perhaps in a city.
well, and that's what, again, getting back to that issue of the urban versus the rural, because one of the realities
Right.
is Wendell Berry talks about this too. We have to deal with resignation, this idea of
Hmm.
resignation, and that is that humans, when they're bombarded with anxiety or fear, after a while they shut it off. Whether it's,
Right.
he uses the example of in the 50s growing up, and everybody was building a bunker in their backyard so they didn't get blown up with nuclear weapons, and he was a
Right.
poor guy and didn't have the money. So after a while, he said, you just resign yourself that, well, if the nukes are coming, they're going to
Oh,
get me. Now, I think there are
oh, okay.
two areas where we look in our modern time, we could say that we are at risk of resignation.
Yep.
One is with poorly labeled food that we are finding we're actually in an adversarial relationship with, that
Hmm.
we can't trust our food. And so
Hmm.
when you try to discern what's in your food and you can't get that information from the label
Right.
reliably, when the
Right.
labels lie,
Hmm.
then after a while you go, oh, well, I give up. Everything's bad for me. I'm going to eat Girl Scout
Oh,
cookies full of cadmium and
okay.
because they say everything's bad. And you'll always have people that say that. I make the parallel with cigarette smoking, right?
Hmm.
Cigarettes, they find out they cause lung cancer. They'll kill you. And then there's always the guy in the room that says, oh, that's a lie. They just don't want us to enjoy ourselves. And they're gonna live, and they're gonna be puffing that cigarette in the oxygen tent. But a lot of people stopped smoking cigarettes when the warning went on the package. So we
Right.
don't want people to resign
Oh,
themselves. Yes, okay, I ate out last night and I ate at a Chinese restaurant and I know it's not organic, and so don't
sure.
give up. Now eat healthy food today.
Right.
I taught agriculture to some seventh and eighth graders and I experimented on them.
Oh,
And you
wow.
can tell them, like cigarette smoking in seventh grade, don't smoke, you're going to die of cancer. Like,
Yeah.
that's 100,000 years away. And they're not going to change their behavior. We didn't, right? When we were young.
Okay.
I'm an ex-smoker. But then you say, oh, it's going to make you anxious and depressed and give you acne and make you
Hmm.
overweight and you're not going to get a boyfriend. Then they start thinking twice about eating their
Oh,
Skittles or going through the drive-through. And
right.
what I show them and I trying to
Hmm.
what will change their habits. And I figure some of them are never going to change their habits.
Right.
It tastes good. But boy, when you show them that one visit to a drive-through
Right.
will expose you to levels of phthalates, which are forever chemicals that stay in your
Hmm.
body forever, that are endocrine disruptors,
Right.
that can cause a lot of other problems. We don't even know the half of it. One time stays in your body forever. And if you're a girl and if you're a child, you're at much higher risk.
Hmm.
Well, now you got to think twice about going to that. It's going to stay in your body. So yes, the cure is still healthy food, but you need to avoid the toxic food and not resign yourself to thinking that it doesn't matter and you might as well give up
Right.
because it's too hard, you
Apathy,
know.
right. Apathy,
And the
resignation.
apathy also, I think, from dealing with a lot of people, is particularly likely to infect people who are city mice and live in the city because they
Mm.
feel, well, I don't have access to that. I am
Mm.
stuck economically where I am. I'm in a food desert, maybe. I can't grow this food in my backyard. I can't afford it locally. Or if I can, where do I find it and how do I trust it? And so
Mm.
I think it's really important for people that are in that situation to not resign themselves and to,
Yes.
to realize that it's a spectrum. Nobody on earth is eating a perfectly healthy diet because we have tainted our entire environment from our soil, our water, our
Right.
bodies, our food system with
Right.
a host of unseen chemicals. While we worry about COVID or other diseases, the real mortality rate in the chronic disease is happening in the thousands of new chemicals that we create each year and their
Mm.
interaction in a very sensitive human organism. And
Mm.
so, and we see this, by the way, in studies. The microbiome, which we're finding now, gee, wow, I could have had a V8, which is the source of so much of our health,
Mm.
is the healthiest human microbiomes that have been identified on the earth are in the Amazonian rainforest, where people eat
Oh.
grubs and bugs and monkey brains and don't cook things and don't wash their
Right.
hands and all the things we Westerners think are making us healthier, they're not
Right.
doing. And
Right.
the weakest overall, statistically, human microbiomes in the world are in Americans who live in inner cities in concrete jungle. And my
Oh.
personal theory is that I think we actually also pick up microbes that are healthy, without which we die. Okay,
Right.
98% of microbes are life-giving.
For
They're,
sure.
they're a symbiotic relationship. We don't
Yes.
digest food without it. That bull behind me, his name is Bandit because he has two. You see the little
Bandit.
brown eyes there. He has a little bit of brown eyes.
Okay.
He's entirely grass-fed, and he has
Hmm.
four stomachs. We would call them that, the rumen, and each has its own microbial life in it. These
Hmm.
animals know what to eat to feed the microbes. They just instinctively
Hmm.
know it, and we've lost that. So we need
Wow.
to feed our microbiomes again. And when we do that, we see health improvement. So I
Yes.
have great sympathy for people that live in an urban environment and don't have the luxury of living in the middle of the boondocks in the woods like I do, which has
Right.
its trade-offs. Find an Indian restaurant within 2 hours. Good luck. And because I like Indian. But
Right. Me
so
too.
I'm not a braggart about this. I'm not saying everybody come live in the woods. No, we need to build these alliances back between local farmers and local customers because as I mentioned, Vermont's agriculture is deteriorating and so is the
Huh.
nation's, and we're about to lose a lot of our farmland and we're importing more and more food from untrustworthy sources. So if we want to
Oh.
reverse our enslavement to toxic food, we have
Wow.
to take control of it ourselves in our purchasing decisions, whether we're city or country mice. Rant over.
Wow.
Thank you.
That's amazing. Well, I want to get into more detail about that because that's one of the topics I wanted to ask you about because you've been in this field for so much. But I want to, pictures worth 1,000 words. If you could just share with us a couple of, tell us about these two men that you have admired and worked with and collaborated with, and what they've taught you.
Well, I'll say I hope everybody will join me to be a baton carrier for these men. And if there's
Mm,
anything that I teach that's accurate, I hope people will carry that baton as well. So these
mm,
two men in your picture makes me smile. Wendell Berry, who I believe just turned 92 or 3, lives in
really?
Kentucky.
Oh,
That picture is from when my wife Jackie and I visited him. Years
oh,
ago, I started writing to him, and we
oh,
began a sort of pen pal friendship.
yes.
And actually, I think it might have been a different journey where Joel and I have become very good friends. So
Mm,
Wendell Berry and Joel Salatin, slightly different in time and content, but both are
yeah.
writers about the importance of healthy local food.
Hmm.
And Joel is, more of a libertarian. He's a little more controversial. He runs Polyface Farm in Virginia. He's written
Okay.
a lot of books about how people can raise their own food or why it's important. And so
Hmm.
between these two authors and then some others like Aldo Leopold and Wes
Hmm.
Jackson and others that we have a heritage of, we have writers like Aldo Leopold who told us in 1925
Hmm.
that if we compacted the soil, we would destroy the productivity of the earth and that
Oh,
soil microbes were the foundation of soil health and human health.
wow.
I quote him in my latest book, The Coming Food Crisis, because
Mm,
the other issue is not just food quality, but food, having any food at all. And
mm,
so years ago, so I discovered Wendell Berry as a farmer. You've heard my story, and your listeners heard my story. I just fell into it because I got sick. I didn't know what I was doing. There was nothing deliberate or
right.
planned.
So
And after a
who's
number of, sorry,
tell
go
us who
ahead.
Wendell Berry is, John.
So Wendell Berry, who's the upper picture here, he's a writer from Kentucky. His seminal work was called The Unsettling of America. I think he wrote that in
Yes.
1978. He's written over 50 books. He writes fiction, poetry, and
Mm,
nonfiction. My focus has been on his nonfiction because after a number of years of farming, ancillary to trying to get my health back, I learned a lot about farming and food production. And I was
mm.
like, well, this food is healthier than what I could get in the store. Why is that? And why are these regulations here to make it so difficult
Oh.
for me to make it? And why is this so economically difficult? And I thought there must be something wrong with me. And then I discovered Wendell Berry in about
Mm.
2005. And I was
Oh,
like,
okay.
Eureka! I'm
So you've
not
been sick for a
insane.
while.
And so I went to visit him to ask him what
Mm.
he thought were the most important policies we could implement as a country to save and rejuvenate the small family farm.
Right.
That was
Okay.
in that picture, and that's in my book, Small Farm Republic.
Mm.
Joel Salatin is a farmer in Virginia,
Virginia.
and
Okay.
he runs all kinds of workshops and things and speaks around the country. He and I often speak together,
Mm.
where I pride myself on roasting him in a very good-natured way, and he's a very good sport about it, and we have a
Yeah.
lot of fun. But Joel has been writing these books for years. So actually, one of the ways I first got involved with them was in 2016. I'm just
Yeah.
so now I've been farming for almost 20 years. The state of Vermont came to my farm and told me I couldn't sell halves of beef anymore
Really?
to customers. Yeah, we do on-farm slaughter because it's the most humane and because my customers want to know where the animal came from and that it was treated well, etc. And it's less stressful for the animal. It's the most humane way to do it. And so I kind of panicked because, not for myself personally, but here I am, a lawyer and a farmer, but they were going to shut down a lot of the local itinerant slaughterers and custom processors and sort of
No,
this
no.
this network in Vermont for what we have for our small farms. This is essential for us to serve our customers. In fact, it's a crisis in many parts of this country
Mm.
that they don't have enough small processing facilities. We have
Mm.
consolidated the beef and meat industry vertically and horizontally into these
Oh.
massive facilities that
Mm.
process thousands of cows a day. And it's
Oh.
just it's nightmarish. But
Mm.
anyway, so I called up Joel Salatin and I wrote to Wendell Berry and I said, "You guys, you got to help me. I'm gonna fight these people."
Mm.
They've both fought similar battles. Wendell Berry wrote about this sanitation issue in the 70s. Joel
Mm.
had them in Virginia come and seize his cows at one point
Oh.
on a similar effort to shut him down. And
Mm.
so I fought that battle. I announced that I was going to fight that battle. And that's actually how I got where I am with you today. Because otherwise,
Mm.
I would have just stayed in the woods and kept raising a few cows. But when I saw that they were
Oh.
coming to implement regulations to shut down local agriculture and help consolidate this food control, I
Mm.
realized what they're up to. And this, Henry
Oh.
Kissinger said, control the food, control the people.
Mm.
Now, he didn't actually ever say that, but he believed it. And
It's a paraphrase. Yeah.
it's a paraphrase. If you read the Kissinger report, which I discuss in my later book, The Coming Food Crisis, of course they want to control the food supply. They do it for profit and they do it for power. It goes back to
Mm.
the siege of Jerusalem. It goes back to the Romans. It goes back to the Native Americans and slaughtering the bison. Food is a
Mm.
weapon. So
Yes.
you either take control of your own food or you're relying on other people for it. And that's something that
Wow.
Vermonters, we might have been
Wow.
poor, but we ate. We were
Right.
self-reliant and self-sufficient, and so were most of Americans. And now we have become the most dependent society with all of our affluence in the
Wow.
history of humanity, perhaps the sickest as well. Our
Well,
fertility
right.
rates are
Right.
plummeting, our sperm counts are plummeting,
Right.
our mental health is plummeting. Our
Mm.
life expectancy is dropping. Aren't I
Hmm.
Mary Sunshine? But the answer is to just maybe we have to exercise again.
Yes.
Maybe we don't just take a pill. Maybe we have to raise
Right.
some of our own food. Maybe we need to go out and find out who our farmers are and support them before they're gone.
Mm. Wow. Amazing. And John, what's this scene here? You've got a lamb there and
some funny looking guy in a red shirt. So
So
that's
tell
some of
us
my
about, tell
cows.
us about
Those are Hereford cows.
Hereford
Last
cows.
year we sold our sheep because I had to decide whether I was going to keep farming or work to help other people farm. I work a lot
Oh,
of hours now writing articles and working within the Maha organization and other
yeah,
groups to try. We've got our moment here. You know, the whatever people think of Bobby Kennedy, he talked about regulatory capture. He talked about chronic disease from the food
yes,
supply. And he talked about how to fix it. So
yep,
people can hate him and still acknowledge that he's right. And so
he is,
whatever happens with Maha, whatever happens in the federal agencies,
right,
there's a movement on it. We're not going to get another bite at this apple. We have to reclaim our food supply now.
right,
And, you know, not to talk too long, but you had me on here to talk.
for
Something
sure.
changed a little bit. When I wrote that Small Farm Republic book in 2023, I talked about how if we nurture small farms, we help reduce soil erosion, preserve precious water supplies, improve food quality, food security, rural communities, rural economic growth. See, it's Wendell Berry in reverse.
Mm.
And so when I met Wendell, actually, I said to him, I said, Wendell, let me put it to you this way: Have you ever heard the country western song, or the joke about what happens with a country western song when you play it backwards? And he said, "Oh, I don't think I ever heard that before." Well, I said, "What happens when you play a country western song backwards?" He says, "Well, I don't know." And I said, "Well, you get your car back, you get your job back, you get your wife back, you get your dog back." What happens when you play The Unsettling of America, your book, backwards?
Mm.
What happens when you push people back out of the cities and back on the land? Well, you get your equipment dealer back. You get your grain
Mm.
silo back. You get your sawmill back. You refill your public schools. Vermont's
Mm.
lost over 30% of its public school students in the last 30 years. We have
Mm.
the most expensive school in the country per pupil, and we're not
Mm.
getting good results from it. Why?
No.
Because we're emptying the countryside. So what we need to do is try to figure
Oh.
out how to make it viable. Now, when I met with Wendell, the policies he gave me that I wrote about in the book, that the two most important things that I felt we could do and advocate in the book was, one, take some of the subsidies from the federal government that we put into GMO monocultures, right? GMO cropping, glyphosate
Right.
dependent, atrazine dependent, chemical dependent cropping. We spend billions of dollars incentivizing those practices. If we could
Mm.
take part of that money and put it into regenerative slash organic agriculture, it could thrive. It's
Mm.
not that organic isn't, it is competitive if it's allowed a free market. It's not a free market when you're subsidizing the big
Oh,
guys, okay?
right.
The
That's what
Kissinger,
Bobby was talking
right?
about, ending those subsidies.
And the subsidies hasn't happened. Number two, I advocated in the book to reduce the regulations that unduly oppress small farms. And we're making some
Mm.
progress with that. But it's not happening at the federal government. It's not happening at the USDA. So I think the worldview that
Mm.
I had until recently was we are enslaved by the USDA, EPA, and HHS and other agencies that control our food pyramid, control, you know, whether glyphosate is causing cancer or not, whether we're going to have paraquat or atrazine in our children's breakfast cereals.
Mm.
And until we change that, we're never going to win. And what I realize now is we have a grassroots movement going on. We're not
Mm.
going to get any politician to ban glyphosate. Bayer
Right. Right.
Monsanto is too powerful. They spend
Right.
billions of dollars. But
Right.
if I'll make an analogy to cigarette companies again, because that's who took over our food system, by the way. The same
Mm.
companies that sold us tobacco took
Mm.
over when they started losing money in tobacco. They took over the food industry and started doing the same thing,
Mm.
creating products that are addictive, creating products that we wouldn't eat without artificial sweeteners and flavorings that a
Right.
pig wouldn't eat, that a dog wouldn't eat, but we eat. Okay,
Right. Right.
maybe a dog would eat a Twinkie. Pretty much nothing else will eat a Twinkie. And so,
Mm.
if we really want to change, we're looking, Maha, many people in Maha are looking for the government to come in and ban all glyphosate and rescue us from regulatory capture. Don't hold your breath. But
Mm.
if, like cigarettes, we, through your program and others, can equip parents and actually maybe have more labeling clarity so we can see what's in
Mm.
our food, and we start to not purchase foods that have glyphosate in it. That's
Right.
it. That's free market.
Yep.
Then they can pass all the executive orders they want and they can put all the glyphosate they want, but their market return will dwindle. And the market
Oh,
premium for healthier food will go up. And
right.
that's how we got rid of cigarettes. You can still buy cigarettes. You can still go ahead and get yourself sick, and
Sure.
we have to pay to cure you from your cancer. Bayer Monsanto will do that too, by the way. Bayer Monsanto will sell you the GMO seeds. They will sell you the Roundup. They will sell you the glyphosate, and then they will
Right.
sell you the chemo drugs to cure the
Oh,
cancer
right.
that they gave you. Okay.
Right.
And with 181,000 Americans have filed lawsuits claiming their non-Hodgkin lymphoma was caused by glyphosate. But the
Yeah,
EPA
Bobby won
says,
that lawsuit, I think, some years ago, right?
but now the U.S. Supreme Court in Durnell versus Monsanto has basically stricken out all those lawsuits, claiming
Oh,
that if the company, this is right back, by the way, to cigarette manufacturing. Sorry, this is the lawyer thing coming. What is a
no, it's
lawyer
okay.
and a farmer doing together?
Yeah.
So this is a fascinating story, and I don't think it will bore your listeners, so I will share it.
No.
So in
Oh,
the
please.
early 1960s, we live in a country where we had certainly seen in the 1950s that cigarettes were advertised as being healthful, really
Yes,
good for your lungs.
for
Doctors
sure.
with their, home visit bags saying, "Oh, I smoke Pall Malls. They're fresh and refreshing for my lungs. I feel
Right, right,
great."
right.
Hey, if the doctor says that, next thing you got Anthony Fauci telling you vaccines are good. So they
Mm.
actually gave away free cartons of cigarettes at high schools. They would distribute them. They would get soldiers, they would give them out to soldiers for free. They had famous athletes and basketball players saying how when they smoke cools, they can jump higher. Some would
Mm.
say this was false advertising.
Mm.
Some would say this was deceptive advertising.
Right.
So Congress in 1966 maybe passed the cigarette labeling law, which we all know, which came to say, warning, cigarette smoking may be
Right.
hazardous to your health. So
Right.
here's where I ended up with that. So that was designed by Congress to warn people so they wouldn't kill themselves, especially young people. There were other laws passed for age restrictions and advertising restrictions around that time. But
Right.
here's what happened in the law: federal preemption. So now let's say
Huh.
you're David Smith, you live
Right.
in Arkansas, and you file a lawsuit claiming that cigarettes caused your lung cancer and you're dying now.
Right. Right.
And you get into court and the tobacco company says, "Uh-oh, no, you can't let him sue for the damage to his lungs from our cigarettes because we put a label on our package now." The federal government required this is
Oh,
federal law, and federal law preempts all state law. And if you allow Mr. Smith in
wow.
Arkansas to sue and win, that means that our label was inadequate. And that means that we would have to
Wow.
put a better label on it for people in Arkansas. It would have to say, "Warning, if you're in Arkansas, cigarettes are really, really, really bad. You definitely shouldn't smoke them, Mr. Smith." And so
Wow.
this is called federal preemption. And you would
Mm.
create a patchwork of 50 states requiring 50 labels, and it
Right.
would usurp Congress's authority to have had one labeling system. That was
Oh.
eventually overturned, but for approximately 30, almost 30 years,
Oh.
nobody in America who got lung cancer from cigarettes could file a lawsuit for their personal injuries because
Oh.
Congress had passed a labeling requirement on cigarette packages designed to keep them from getting lung cancer. You with me? This is
Wow.
exactly what's happening with glyphosate right now. The
Wow.
Supreme Court just ruled, I'm disgusted as a lawyer, but the Supreme Court just ruled that when the federal government and the EPA put a label, there you go. Those are everywhere. Ubiquitous ads, right? Look at that happy, healthy doctor. He's probably eating too many Doritos too, but they didn't exist then. So now here we are again. We're in the same place again. We're told you can't sue if you have non-Hodgkin lymphoma, because the EPA already decided that under the Insecticide, Rodenticide, and Fungicide Act,
Right.
FIFRA, I think it is.
Right.
Excuse me, sorry, getting over a
Sure.
cold.
Oh.
And I eat healthy food, but I still get sick. That's how I build my immune system.
There you go.
So we as Americans, so people say, "Well, this is horrible. It's a travesty. Maha has failed." Actually, I think it's great. I think the mole head is sticking out. The whack-a-mole, I call it.
Mm. Mm.
Americans are watching now. The President of the United States pass an executive order saying that glyphosate is necessary for national security. That
Mm.
came right from Monsanto's boardroom. Okay. And when the U.S.
Whoa.
Supreme Court rules that, and under pressure from the Trump administration, which, by the way, the Supreme Court ruled against farmers under in Monsanto v. Bowman when
Oh.
when the Obama administration was in power, and the Obama administration filed a brief supporting Monsanto. Okay, so this
Huh.
this problem of regulatory capture has been a bipartisan problem for
Right.
60 years, and that's
Wow.
why we need a bipartisan movement. I call
Mm.
it MAHA little m, lower consonant, low,
Oh, okay.
that's where it's still happening. Americans are seeing this and they're not saying, oh, gee, the Supreme Court says we can't sue. Let's just go keep eating our glyphosate. No, it's actually
Oh,
alerting more and more people to just how dire the situation is. And the
huh.
more through programs like yours, because the mainstream media isn't going to do this, because the
Mm,
mainstream media is owned and controlled by big pharma and big farm. All
right.
right. And
Right.
that's who we're fighting. So the more we educate people, the more down the road. So now I say I'm no longer waiting for the federal government to rescue us from our food supply. I'm saying if we don't do
Okay.
it if we do it ourselves, kind of like the tobacco industry and other things, their sales will drop and
Right.
and then they'll come up with vapes. But
Right, right. So you're saying, John, that a big part of the solution to this corporate capture, this, corruption at the federal level is voting with your pocketbook, voting with your dollars, with
absolutely.
buying foods that are more local, natural, organic foods.
And you're supporting your local economy. It's going to be
Yeah.
fresher. The closer you are to the farmer, the more you can trust that they are,
Right.
or I'm not giving any hormones or antibiotics or even wormers to my
Right.
cows, but
Right.
the
Right. Right.
further you get away from your farmer, you're buying something wrapped up in plastic and you don't really know where it comes from.
Mm, right.
So there are
Wow.
health benefits, but also this is about liberty. This is all going to get
Mm,
worse and until we fix
oh,
it. And the more we get
okay.
our food from further and further away, the
Right.
more vulnerable the supply chain is, and the more vulnerable
Mm,
it all is to inflation through sloppy monetary policy or
huh.
something like a disruption in the Middle East in the supply, in the Strait of Hormuz, which I discussed in this book, before we went into Iran. It's a
Oh,
no-brainer for those of us that remember the oil crisis of the 70s, how
right.
quickly all of our food is built on an illusion of plenty, abundance, and affordability, and
Hmm.
it's all built on cheap energy. And the moment
Oh.
either energy becomes expensive through various crises that could puncture that market, or a $40 trillion deficit could spark inflation. And inflation
Hmm.
alone, who thought we were going to pay $80,000 for a pickup truck? So
Hmm.
when, because we don't seem to be changing our behavior, when we're at an $80 trillion federal deficit,
Hmm.
then we'll at some point we're going to say, you know what? It's more effective for me to grow a vegetable garden again. People
Oh.
stop growing
Okay.
vegetable gardens because it's hard work and you could buy it cheaper in the store. We
Right.
need a new generation. And we
So is
also
that
need better labeling because in order for people to exercise those buying decisions, they need to have labels they can trust. And that's with new technology and AI and everything else and algorithms. We're on the cusp of finally defeating industrial capture by giving
hmm.
people that information to make, information to make the decisions. They need to both know what decisions to make and have the data in the food so they can make those decisions. And that's what
Right. I
I'm
mean,
working on every day.
we have warning labels on record albums or the CDs or whatever for explicit language, but not for GMOs in our food.
Well, and GMOs may not be harmful in their own right. It's the
Hmm.
chemicals used in producing them. They're
Hmm.
probably lower in nutrient density. But
Right.
wouldn't you, I ask people this all the time, I ask young people, wouldn't you like to go in the store and hit a QR code and scan it and know the nutrient density of your food, know which farm it came from,
Oh, wow.
know
Yes.
all of the 600 or more contaminants we can test for, and you can know
Right.
what's in your food when you buy it and take it home and give it to your infant.
Hmm.
Everybody wants that. And that's
Hmm.
the last thing corporate America wants us to have. They
Hmm.
don't want us to have that food
Information.
transparency. And the stocks of a lot of these large companies that are food
Right.
companies, they're plummeting because people are
Huh.
60 to 70% of what's in the grocery store shelves is very nutrient deficient. It might
Right.
even be bad for you. A lot of
Right.
these additives are designed to
Right.
make you keep eating when you're full. So then
Right.
they can sell you GLP-1 to shut that
Right.
off. I mean, this is
Right.
really worse than Orwellian. It's a horror movie.
Wow.
And by God, Americans are waking up to it and they see their
Yeah.
peril. And that's
Yep.
our hope.
That's our hope. So, I mean, organic food sales, John. I know you're going another step beyond organic, which is local. it has been going up pretty steadily in recent decades. People are buying more organics, and you're seeing that the consumer demand in Walmart and in big Costco and whatever, where people are buying these big box stores, all have organic sections, and in the regular supermarkets, there's always a little bit, at least a little section there of organic food driven by consumer demand. Are you hopeful that that will continue and expand?
I am, but we're in a battle. Let's not,
Mm,
be naive.
yeah.
Um, there are corporate interests that have steadily consolidated their domination of market share for
Mm,
80 years, and they're not going to give it up easily. They've
mm,
consolidated farms into CAFO facilities where it's
mm,
not, it's then you need to pump the animals full of antibiotics
right,
because it's so unhealthy for them. And
right.
you're actually breeding disease. 70% of the antibiotics in this country are used in animals and animal feed.
Wow.
So let's back up a little bit. So
Yeah.
organic has been growing for a long time, and something that I wrote about in my first book, Small Farm Republic, is that it sort of hit a plateau. And my view, or my
Oh,
theory, is that it hit a plateau because most of the Americans that could afford to buy organic were, and a lot of
okay.
Americans can't afford it. So we had to get past
Oh,
the farm stands and the farmers markets have boomed, right? But they're expensive, and many of us can't afford that. Where do we go? Costco. We go to,
mm.
I don't go to Costco, but I probably will start. And so look what's happened right here. This is proving Clara right. Proving me right. Costco, uh, BJ's, Walmart have all positioned themselves to meet a public demand for healthier food. Only 1% of U.S. Agriculture production is organic. We cannot meet
1%?
the demand, but the demand is there.
Wait a
General
minute.
Mills,
Wait, hold on, John.
JBS, all of these companies are moving to meet the demand because consumers want it. And guess who wants it the most? Young people. I learned this
Mm,
again teaching young people. I taught young people to eat healthier food, and they went home and made their parents stop taking them to McDonald's. All right. I didn't
mm.
do it the other way around because those of us in our 50s and 60s, we've already firmed it up. We like our donuts and our Twinkies. We
Sure,
just
sure.
do. So a
Yeah.
bad habit is called a vice, and a
Mm,
good habit is called a virtue. And it's a
right.
lot easier to instill good habits in young people, and they want
Yeah.
it. That's why beef prices are so high. So the
Huh.
other thing we have to get around, the big debate has been, oh, is organic, really healthier? And studies show, yes, it is.
For sure.
If not directly because of the nutrient content, then in the add-on externalized cost, this is Wendell-Berry 101, the externalized cost of farming, right? So if I'm
Oh,
using farming practices, even if the GMOs that I'm growing were equal in nutritional value for you as a human,
right. Right.
well, it's not for the soil microbes. The glyphosate is killing the
Oh,
soil. That's accelerating
okay.
erosion. So that's not good for my long-term productivity or nutrient
Right.
density that I'm losing 4 to 5 tons of topsoil per year per acre on
Mm.
92 million acres of corn. It's all going into our water system.
Wow.
Meanwhile, when you deplete the soils, the water retention of that soil is dramatically reduced. So you need to have
Mm.
more irrigation in more often, and you're pumping it out of the ground in aquifers in places like Nevada and Arizona and California that are subsiding because we're pumping the water out of the ground so fast. In 20 years, we're not going to have any more water. So where
Mm.
are we going to eat then? So once again, we have to look at long-term consequences. And if
Mm.
you do, GMOs suck. All right.
Mm.
GMOs are terrible. Now, meanwhile,
Right.
we spent 30 years or more paying farmers to employ these practices. And this is something else
Oh,
I think people need to be aware of. Organics, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, people would poo-poo it and go, oh yeah, organics. It's
right.
a lot different after 25 years of saturating the soil with glyphosate and atrazine and all kinds of chemicals that do not belong in the human body or in the
Well,
animals' bodies. So
a
this has
couple of,
become more of a crisis. And the other thing is, there's something to be said for regenerative. In other words, as I write
right.
in my book, a local conventionally grown food might be less deleterious to the environment and healthier for me if an organic food that I buy from, let's say, China. If you look at the total cost of
Oh,
energy and
right.
plastics and transport, and then we have to look
Right.
at food security. Doritos is better than nothing, right? I pick
Right.
on Doritos all the time. One of these days, Doritos or Twinkies are going to sue me, and then I'll know I've arrived. But at any rate, so it's a continuum. You're not going to get a perfectly healthy diet. You're not going to get, but you can sure eat crap food and hydrogenated fats are not good for you, and
Right.
margarine is not good for you.
Right.
Butter is good for you. Meat is good for you. Eggs are good for you. And then everybody's going, wait, but they told us not to eat those things. And now we've got a new food pyramid.
Yes.
Great. Where does the food come from to supply our public
Oh,
schools, our hospitals, our prisons, and our military with healthy food? It does not exist.
right.
Okay. So unless you're going to support the farmers and start moving that needle towards
Right.
more production of what consumers want, the price is going to go high. It's going to go to
Mm,
80 bucks a pound for hamburger or
mm,
wherever it has to go
right.
before the market starts to respond. And the market powers, these big companies, they do not want to give it back to us. And
Right.
we don't have the
So,
farmers anymore, and we don't have the
mm,
young farmers anymore. So we
mm,
have a crisis and we have work to do, and we all need to get on deck and we need to educate our kids and our grandkids. The moms are, the young moms across America and other outfits,
right.
they are our mama bears. Tell
Yes.
them that beech nut baby food has mercury and cadmium in it, and they're going to call their Congress people, and they're going to start making their own green beans for
Right.
their children again.
Right.
Who in the world said that we should all shift to formula instead of human breast milk? We've
Right.
got 70 years of really stupid, market-driven, regulatory captured policies to flush down this toilet. We are just
So,
starting.
two questions, John.
Sorry, rant over.
No, no, it's amazing. Thank you. It's
You
wonderful.
need to get
Uh,
back on the piano. You need to calm me down.
no, 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 no. That's done. But I want you have so much to share. So I just want to see if I got this right. So you said 1% of all U.S. farmland is organic, farmed
One
organically.
1% of, according to USDA, only about 1% of our organic production, or 1% of our agriculture production is organic. We
Oh,
import 80% of the soy meal that's organic that we use to feed animals that are organic. We import 70% of that.
wow.
So we're importing organic meats. We're not meeting, here in Vermont, we're not meeting the demand for local organic meats. We're not
Mm,
meeting the foreign demand for US grown organic meats. Why not?
wow.
If it's a market opportunity, why are we instead giving money to a failed system that's basically funding chemical companies through the
Mm,
farmers? In other words, a lot of farmers right now with input costs where they are
right,
literally just conduits for the federal government to send money from USDA to Dow
right.
and DuPont and Monsanto through the farmers because they're not
So,
making enough for their commodities to break even
oh,
without
okay.
subsidies.
Right, right. So recently, or I guess it's this year, Bobby, there was like 50 billion to 50 states for regenerative agriculture. What was that about?
I think you're talking about the 50 billion for the RHTP, the Rural Health Transformation
Oh, it
Program.
might be that. It was supposed to be, there was something
It
with
was through
regenerative farming.
It was through HHS.
Okay.
The Trump administration through USDA also put about $700 million into a regenerative farming pilot program,
Hmm.
which is not the same as 50 billion. The
Oh,
50
okay.
billion is
Okay.
over 5 years. It's the Rural Health Transformation Program, and we're trying to
Okay.
implement some of these policies there. For instance, tying health outcomes in hospitals to healthier food. If
Hmm.
you give people healthier food, you can get them off Wegovy. You can get them
Right.
off, if it's type
Yep.
2 diabetes, you can get them off insulin. And most
Right.
of us would rather do that. Now, just a few years ago, we had a TV show called My Beautiful 600-Pound Life. And I think that girl maybe died of an of being, I don't know.
Right.
But young people, we don't hear that now. The
Wow.
culture is shifting. Young people are like, I want to get a date for the prom. And I
Yeah.
don't want to be sick all my life. And
Right.
I don't want to weigh
Right.
600 pounds. It doesn't feel good. I mean, I'm trying to lose 10 pounds right now. So it's okay. It's
Right.
okay to be overweight, but it's also okay to want to be healthy. And so
Yep.
we're making wanting to be healthy in America
Yeah.
again. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so that's an important first step. So at any rate, so I'm very optimistic about the capacity for humans to choose the best path for them.
Yes.
What I'm not
And
optimistic about is our ability to overcome the entrenched powers that have eliminated most
right.
of our farmers and our farmland and the
Right.
knowledge that it takes to raise an animal. You
Right.
mentioned Joel Salatin. Joel Salatin says it takes an average of 5 years for a person to learn how to farm.
Wow.
Depends on what you're trying to learn how to farm, and it could take longer than that. And there's a
Oh,
heck of a curve of failure in that first 5 years.
wow.
It could be quite
Wow.
economically traumatizing as well
Right.
as emotionally. So we have work to do, and we need to we
So,
need to create the policies, the incentives, and the markets for a new generation of young people to become farmers. Well, us old folks, the average age of a farmer in America is 61 and a half. Half
Oh,
of all of our farmers are expected to retire in the next 15 years.
oh,
Right? I should say half of all U.S. farmland is expected to change hands in the next 15 years.
oh.
That is a crisis. Is
Mm,
China going to own it? Is Bill
mm,
Gates going to own it?
right,
Or are my grandkids going to own it?
right.
Carrying on
So,
this idea of stewardship.
right. And second question was, tell us about Bobby Kennedy talked about this on the campaign trail before he joined the Trump team, and I think he's spoken about it since, of this atrazine situation, and talking about, the detrimental. What is atrazine? Why is it in the food supply, and why should we be concerned about it?
Atrazine is used. Sorry,
No, it's all right.
I just realized I did get invited while we were in this interview to a 2 p.m. meeting. Oops,
Okay.
I'm late.
No,
So
go
let
when you
me
need to.
well, that's it's kind of an important one. So I'm
Yep.
gonna I'm gonna bail on you here, but only because you can have me back on again because
Yeah, yeah, for
I
sure,
want
for
I
sure.
want more piano.
You'll
Um,
get more piano. And before you go, Joe, I just want to make sure folks know how to stay abreast of your work and any final comments to feel complete for today.
well, and forgive me if that weren't an important meeting, I wouldn't
No,
cut out.
absolutely.
So first of all, answering your question on atrazine, atrazine is used almost exclusively in corn. I
Oh,
remember reading one study that showed that atrazine is estimated to increase corn crop yields by 4% a year. In other words,
4.
it's a pesticide, so you're saving
Wow.
about 4% of your crop. But
Hmm.
atrazine is an endocrine disruptor. It
Yes.
mimics estrogen. So in the
Hmm.
human body, especially the male body, and especially if you're overweight and eating foods that cause you high carb foods that maybe compromise your immune system and your gut, and you're more likely to store estrogen in your fat tissues.
Yes.
So Bobby's talked about this too. We have male fish, male bass laying eggs in Vermont.
Hmm.
It's probably due to atrazine. We don't
Hmm.
want to oversimplify. Atrazine probably doesn't act alone. It's probably mixed in with
Hmm.
glyphosate residues. All these chemicals break down.
Hmm.
There are thousands and thousands of these chemicals. But
Hmm.
atrazine has been pretty well established. It's banned in
Wow.
Europe, but it's still used in
Wow.
America.
Wow.
So atrazine is in your corn. So
Wow.
buy organic corn.
Buy
Now, a
organic
lot of
corn.
that corn is going into ethanol production or animal production. So once
Yes.
again, it's passing through.
Sean
Uh,
Clark, thank you so much. I know you've got to get a meeting. I hope you'll come back to the show. There's so many questions we didn't get to today on my list of things to ask you about. So if you're up
well,
for
and
it,
yeah,
love to
and
have another
my
conversation.
you started cut yeah, but you allowed me to plug myself. My Substack is called Small Farm Republic, or just look for John Clark, Klar. Sign up for free. I am not writing to get rich. I'm writing to equip people so that we can keep this movement going,
Excellent.
because we're not going to get another chance to reclaim our food supply. You don't
Mm,
you don't take land back out once you pave it, once you spray it, once you
right.
spray it with PFAS, you don't
Yes.
you don't reclaim it easily. It can take hundreds of years to reclaim our soils,
Wow.
and thus our
Wow.
health. So forgive me for cutting out.
No, it's
I
okay.
want to come on again.
Wonderful. We'll get you scheduled, John. Thank you.
God
Sean
bless you
Clark.
all. Thank you. Thanks
Appreciate it.
everybody. Bye.
Bye-bye. Wow. That amazing. That was a bit of a fire hose with John Clark. So just wanted to get us all caught up on what John was talking about. So this is his book site and also his author page, smallfarmrepublic.com, all about local agriculture. And something we've talked about here is the climate scam, which he mentions here, rejecting climate alarmism, this ridiculous nonsense of apocalyptic civilization ending climate change because of man-made carbon dioxide and fossil fuels. Complete nonsense, but he talks about that in the book. And this is his blog, johnclar.substack.com. And here is, oh, he's got a podcast. We'll have to talk to get on that. So yeah, we'll have John back. There's a lot we didn't get to that I wanted to ask him about. He's so knowledgeable. So this is his his Substack, johnclart.substack.com. Here is again, all these links are in the and if folks are on the watch page, let me know if you're on the watch page so I can get links over to you on the watch page. Let me know if somebody's there. Or if you're on one of the other platforms, that's fine too. So smallfarmrepublic.com. This is the book, Small Farm Republic. This is the newer book, The Coming Food Crisis, which he gave us a little bit of an insight into how corporations, activists, and climate alarmists are waging war on farmers. And then let's see. Oh yeah, this is some of the stuff we didn't get to. And then, so this is available. And then this is one of my favorite websites. I recommend this to patients constantly is localharvest.org, localharvest.org. One of the most important websites to actually implement this local food, small farm revolution, which is really a return to a sustainable food system. And so if you go to localharvest.org, this just automatically pops up Denver, but wherever you are, you can find farmers markets, local farms, and this is a wonderful resource for knowing your farmer. One of the things we talk about here, know your farmer. And who's growing your food, who's producing your food. Even if you can't do it yourself, find out where your food comes from, try to shop as locally as possible. And something he said that even if it's not certified organic, that local food, even if not certified organic, is going to be better for you and the environment and the planet than that organic food shipped from wherever in terms of total resource cost and externalized cost to ship that food and package that food and move that food to you may actually outweigh the benefits of the certified organic. And, certified organic, thankfully, has survived a lot of food industry challenges to water it down. I remember some years ago, the food industry made a move to make GMO certified organic and still be certified organic, even though it's GMO. So that was defeated. But there's these constant challenges. But this localization of everything, finding your local tribe, banking locally, finding a local credit union, as I did. I was with JP Morgan Chase or Chase Manhattan back in those days for decades. And now I'm with a, locally owned, member-owned credit union, which is better and a lot cheaper. And it's keeping the money in the community. So things like that. You can read the Solari report with Catherine Austin Fitts. She talks, it's one of the subjects she talks about, but localizing life, in terms of local food and services and stores and businesses, getting as localized as possible builds resilience at a local level so that if some of these centralized systems don't or are disrupted for whatever reason, there's resilience at a local level. So very important. All right, so we've got a couple of questions here that came in. Hello, everybody. Carol, how do the small farmers deal with chemicals dumping aluminum bearing, et cetera, on the crops, changing the acidity of soil? Yeah, well, I guess that's a chemtrail question, maybe, Carol, perhaps, the geoengineering chemtrails, perhaps, maybe. Yeah, that is an issue, and it comes down to doing what you can do, what you can change, right? And that's the serenity prayer, right? Dear God, grant me the courage to change the things I can't, change the things I can, accept the things I can't, and the wisdom to know the difference. So changing what you can change is important. I've had patients who, are on very limited budgets. They can't buy organic foods. And all I was able to do is it was make a big difference. What they could do was simply shift their food budget a little bit, not to organic, but to eating more eggs, right? Even though it's, CAFO eggs and, with all the problems with that, but still it was better than, eating, as John said, the Doritos. You can spend the same money on a bag of Doritos as you can on eggs, some number of eggs. So that would be, even though it's not organic, it's still an improvement. And I found, we have a wonderful farmers market here, several of them in the area. But here in Boulder, we have a great farmers market, and it's, you're buying direct from the farmer. And so it's often cheaper than it is in the store, which is from the same, for the same food from the same farm. So it's, going to these farmers markets. When I was in New York City, we didn't grow any food. We were in a, not a big house and on a, a row of houses and didn't grow any food. But we had an organic CSA, community supported agriculture. These CSAs are direct to farmer. The farmer delivers food. It's a co-op. The group buys food as a group from the farmer at wholesale prices. The farmer delivers it to that area once a week or whatever is in harvest at that time. And I just learned a couple of weeks ago at the Boulder Farmers Market, because the peaches are in season now, and I talked to one of the peach farmers. I'm like, well, this peach is ripe now, and there are several types of peaches through this peach season. It's not just one type of peach. She said we may have a dozen different peaches that ripen at different times or are ready to pick at different times, and that we bring. It's like, oh, this tastes different than last week's peaches, as goes a different peach. Just like there's 100 different types of apples, at least, there's a bunch of different types of peaches. So you're always getting seasonal and fresh if you're buying local. So CSAs, farmers markets, going direct to the farm. Even in New York City, where I lived my first 40 years, I learned to, have the famous Amos was the Amish farmer in Pennsylvania that, sent a guy in a van to deliver raw milk and raw yogurt and raw cheese and all the good things and wonderful eggs. From his Amish farm in Pennsylvania, he would, the van would come to the yoga studio 10 minutes away once a week. And we'd pick up our big box of stuff that would last us the week, and, off we go. So we get organic, local food directly from the farmer. So that was an example of a CSA where a bunch of people would chip in and pay their share and get what was available that week, and did that here in Boulder for many years. Was part of a cow share program because raw milk is still onerously regulated in most states. So realmilk.com is another one for you. Realmilk.com. This is a project of the Weston Price Foundation, wonderful folks. And it's called a Campaign for Real Milk. Same thing. You just go and put in your location, and you can find a local organic raw dairy farmer producing the best milk available in your area. And it's available, it's farmers everywhere. So between realmilk.com and localharvest.org, you will find lots of great solutions. Also, get a hold of this book from the Weston Price Foundation. This is the shopping guide. If you just ate all your food out of this little booklet, you would be very healthy, and it shows you where to get it. So Weston Price shopping guide, recommend to every patient. And if you haven't had a consult in the last year with me, it's time. Do a lab review, protocol review, lifestyle review, good checkup, and take some next steps. So just go to michaelgato.com and have a consult. If it's been a year or somebody in your family, friends, they haven't had a consult in a year, it's time to do that annual natural functional medicine checkup. So I want to have John back on as soon as possible. I think we might be able to get him on in October. We'll have to look at the schedule. So that's my answer to that, Carol. I've been asked that many times by patients. Change what you can, and that will be enough. Because this stuff you can't change. So that's just how it is. Can't first there's deep corruption when the chemtrails and COVID shots are still available and still happening. So. Dr. Garza, hello. What about the avocado oil used in Primal Kitchen? Siete, they're saying it is the seed oil instead of avocado oil. Is that true? You've heard anybody? I'm not too familiar with that. I know avocado oil. I use avocado oil on my grill. I like to grill. And my grass-fed ribeye, for example, or whatever. And I use avocado oil because of the high smoke points, 550-degree smoke point compared to about 350-degree smoke point for olive oil. So I still use my organic extra virgin olive oil in my salad dressings and such, my family recipe, balsamic vinaigrette, and with organic balsamic vinegar from Italy and extra virgin olive oil and a little bit of mustard and maple syrup and a bunch of salt, pepper, all kinds of things. But I'm not familiar with that differentiation between the seed or the avocado, the meat of the fruit itself. So that's a good question. Carol, hi Carol. I've had to have a CAT scan with contrast. I want to know to minimize the effects of the radiation and the chemicals from the contrast. How many echinacea premium to take a day while still fighting infection? Okay. So yeah, a contrast dye in radiology typically washes out in about 36 hours. So the things that tend to help increase ionizing radiation resistance are herbs like eleuthero and ginkgo. I'll give you links to those formulas specifically. And that's what I use. That's what I recommend is taking a loading dose for a few days before and a few days after. So that would be 4 to 6 a day is what I use and recommend. And of each of the eleuthero, anywhere from 4 to 6 a day. And I take this every day just preventatively. It's the iconic adaptogen, Eleutherococcus senticosus. Wonderful herb. It's the herb you take when you're well to stay well. And so 4 to 6 of those, and the same amount, 4 to 6 or 10, ginkgo forte. Also, I take that every day, just preventatively, maintenance and wellness. And standard dose preventatively of eleuthero is 3 a day. You can double that before and after any type of X-ray exposure with a CT or X-ray. And ginkgo preventative, standard dose is 4 a day. You can go 6 to 8 a day for those few days before and after. And then vitamin C. Dr. Royal Lee taught that the natural C complex, cataplex C, can increase radiation resistance up to 10-fold. And so this would be, anywhere from 9 to 15 a day for a few days before and after a X-ray exposure. Oh, here's that Lyme book. One of them is there. And so that's my little triad for radiation. Yeah, that works great. How many echinacea premium take while still fighting infection? That would be ideally you'd have the liquid, but the tablets are fine. The liquid dose would be, 60 milliliters a day, which is 4 tablespoons. Or if you have the tablets, it would be anywhere from 9 to 20 a day of the Echinacea Premium tablets, anywhere from 9 to 20 based on how sick you feel. It's not the primary formula when you're sick, but it would be in addition to the primary herbal formula when you're sick, which also contains echinacea in it, which is Andrographis complex. Also, what I recommend and take myself for patients and myself is 9 to 20 a day of each one, or at least the Andrographis complex, anywhere from 9 to 20 or 21 a day, based on how sick you feel. But again, never use herbs alone. Always, without exception, use herbs on a foundation of nutritional support, which would be Chondroplex, at the same dose, anywhere from 9 to 21 a day. So 3 tablets or capsules 3 to 7 times a day. When you're actively sick, that combination is quite good. Andrographis Chondroplex, you certainly can top it up with that additional 9 to 21 a day of Echinacea Premium. But the minimum is the dynamic duo is Andrographis Chondroplex. Lots of other formulas to add. Cataplex F tablets, Immuplex, Cataplex D, zinc chelate, lots of other formulas that you can add when you're sick. And I'll give you the general link where you can order anything. It's also in our store at michaelgator.com/store. So good question. Yep. All right. And we'll just do last call for questions. If anybody has other questions, let me know. And let's see what else yeah. So you folks have the 2 kind of main takeaways in terms of application. And you have the links for John's books, The Coming Food Crisis and Small Farm Republic, and his blog and his Small Farm Republic website. So you have all of that. And let's see. Okay, let's do last call for question. Oh, facial tick, Dr. Garza. Well, that can be, it's a little better understood in Chinese medicine as wind invasion, typically. What we call Bell's palsy is, or facial tics is usually wind invasion. Responds really well to body work, Asian body work on the head area, head and neck area, acupuncture, head and neck area. Beamer is superb for facial tics and anything neurological. If you don't have one of those, I'll give you the link to that. Coming up this Wednesday, by the way, is our next class. I teach a class once a month on microcirculation and human health. So that is coming up this coming Thursday. And I'll give you the link is in the chat. And if you click on that link, you'll see right there is a whole page about microcirculation and human health and our class schedule. And so Science and Solutions is right here. And you'll see that. I'll give you the link there as well. And this is coming up. The vascular mind, microcirculation, and the nervous system and the brain. We're going to talk about Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, anxiety, depression, insomnia, brain health, all the things, and how it relates to nervous system balance and microcirculation. So that's coming up next month. We're going to talk about the immune system. October is respiratory, skin in November, and urinary system in December. So that's all coming up. And you'll see that at that page. So we also, Lori and I wrote a 14-lesson email course and created an online library and research compilation on the 74 studies using the BEMER that prove is the most effective treatment on the planet for improving microvascular circulation. So you'll see all this at michaelgated.com/PEMF and how to get one. And we do a lot of practitioner support and others as well. And really happy the dog unit just came out. So now there's the BEMER for dogs, which is just wonderful. We've got some new research on that. It's a unique signal built for the dogs, developed over the last 6 years. So it's a new BEMER signal for the dogs, and that's a good thing. So that's what I use myself, Dr. Garza's bodywork, acupuncture, BEMER. Supplement-wise, facial tic, it depends on the cause. Sometimes it's from a draft or wind invasion into the face, from a person's been out in the windy conditions. Sometimes it's, other conditions that can cause that neurologically. So, but it is certainly helpable. Sometimes it's stress related. It comes on as a symptom of stress response. So kind of depends on the individual person. But it is treatable. It is reversible. It is helpable when a person has a facial tic. Just got to be a little bit of a detective and find out a little bit what might have contributed to that. All right, that is that. And I think we've done it. All right, well, thank you, everybody, for being here today. Wonderful conversation with Jean Clar. And let's see, final things for today. Let me just check my list. Yeah, you can recommend any of our courses as an affiliate. Just go to michaelgated.com. We've paid out thousands of dollars in referral fees to folks who've recommended our courses. So just go to michaelgated.com. You can recommend any course you want and just share it just click, share the link with your email, social, whatever you have. If you haven't had a consult recently, it's time to make sure you're on a customized program of diet and lifestyle supplementation and herbal medicine. michaelgated.com under clinic, then patients. And if you're a practitioner and you haven't yet taken our functional medicine board certification program, it's amazing. We have our annual gathering, which others are welcome to as well, starting this Wednesday. That'll go for 5 days. We get together once a year for 5 days. Coming up this week, it's one of the highlights of my year and here at the school. Cliniciansmastermind.com, and we can have a conversation, see if it's a good fit for you and your practice. But it's a wonderful program. And we've helped hundreds of practitioners become much more happy, successful, effective, and prosperous in their practices. And it is we are an accredited school by 2 different accrediting agencies. And our program also leads to board certification in natural functional medicine. So, final quote: to remember the largeness of who you are, the greatness of your purpose in living, and the enormity of your power to create. Thanks, everybody. I'm Dr. Michael Gaeta. So good to be with you today. Blessings to you and yours. And oh yeah, we have, can't forget, oh boy, we have an amazing schedule of guests coming up. Just going to give you a little preview. This is on our show page at michaelgaeta.com/MWM. And oh boy, we've got some great guests coming up. And I really like this, our new image here on the homepage. Fondly remember conversations with these amazing people. So you can now not just watch live, make sure you're on our email list. You can see past shows. We have a couple of hundred shows in the archive ready for you to enjoy. We're on Spotify, YouTube, and we will soon be on Apple Podcasts. But coming up next week, a good friend here in Colorado, Mariah Mellon, on rebuilding a health human ecosystem, birth, death, and the web of life. Then, very honored to have Dr. McCullough's, the vice president of the McCullough Foundation, brilliant man, John Leake. We're going to be having conversation with John Leake here on the show. Mind Viruses, America's Irrational Obsessions. Then one of our faculty here at the school, Dr. Isabella Wentz, the thyroid pharmacist, is going to be talking about irritable bowel syndrome, followed by the wonderful, courageous pediatrician, Dr. Renata Moon is coming, talking about vaccines from a pediatric medical perspective. And then Leslie Manookian, a major figure in the health freedom movement. We're going to be talking about that at the end of the month. So we've got an amazing September planned for you, and we've got a whole pile of guests that we just need to firm up dates, and look forward to those conversations as well. And you'll see here a list of our past guests and their websites where you can find out about their work, and also this year's episodes with the guests and their links here too. So we have our whole 2026 past show list here, and then you can look up any of our past guests and keep up to date with what they're doing. All right. Well, thanks everybody. Blessings to you and yours. Have a great week.